Sometimes we do sketches, but I couldn't think of one. I haven't thought of one. I didn't do one for Matthew either. I'll have to get back on that, like little funny intros. If we think of one, we can do it later, and I can add
Okay,
it later.
cool.
Like if you can think of a
Yeah, like,
joke to make
can't we
fun of
just
me.
make really scary exorcist noises at each other?
Sure.
Just
What is the scary exorcist noise?
kidding. The power of Christ compels you. I mean, like something like that, Maybe we should do.
Hello, and welcome to the You Show Show. It is the show where you show things. I am Kelvin Laser McMurray, and today I am joined by my bestest, goodest friend, Isabelle Spotts and I. Isabelle, what is up?
Hi,
How
hi.
are you? Not like we've been talking for 45 minutes
Yeah.
before this very moment.
I'm super great now.
Thank you for being here. It's good to have you here.
Yes, it's good to be here.
Isabelle, you are a good Wisconsin friend of mine. You are such a good friend, in fact, that I decided to marry you
Father Laser.
to your current husband. I always love to say that. I'm like,
Hmm.
yeah, I got to marry my
Yeah.
best friend. And it's
Yeah.
like, you're married? I'm like, no, dude, I'm not fucking married. I married my best friend to her husband. It was fucking dope. It was the best day of my life.
It was so amazing.
But yeah, we've known each other for a long time, and
Yeah.
we are both fans of the movies, and here we are today talking about some
Hmm.
movies. So,
Yeah, all good.
well, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you here.
Thank you.
I wanted to talk about really quick that, and I was thinking about this. I was thinking about this up until like the lead up to today, and
Hmm.
out of like everybody that I know personally, I think that you are probably, I don't know like the phrasing of this, so help me out. You're a better
Hmm.
wordsmith than I am, but like you're the top like horror file that I know. You're like the biggest lover of the horror genre, I think, out of anybody that I know.
I love to be known as that. Yeah, that's perfect.
So what is it about horror that it's like it's your shtick? Like
Yeah.
what is it generally that has always drawn you to it?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. I actually thought about this a lot before I knew we were going to have this conversation. I was kind of like, oh, I think this question will come up. Um, I think that the horror genre in general, I mean, there are parts of it that can be really cheesy and silly and obviously not considered great in the realm of film. Which I kind of think is so great because then whatever horror films are truly great, um, it's kind of like they've overcome a greater obstacle. You know what I mean? So there's that, but there's also, I think that there's kind of this, um, and maybe this just relates to me, but it's a bit of an exposure therapy, like this idea that, like, I think people that specifically maybe have heightened fears or anxiety, like I'm like raising my hand here, you can't see it, like that would be me and like a lot of people in the world. I actually think that horror films can be like so great for those people. And I think that's maybe why I'm drawn to them because when I was younger, I was definitely like next level terrified of horror films. And then as I got older, it definitely became something that I not only loved and like leaned into, but I definitely recognized it as like my way of controlling, maybe my own fears or maybe, that sort of a thing is just in a controlled atmosphere. Like the element of fear is so um, cool. It's just something that I don't think it's like something that can come from every film. And to be able to kind of elicit that in a person, like actual true fear, it's super, it's cool. And it's one of those things that like it's developed a lot over time. So, um, there's obviously like the stylized part about the films that I love because I love a certain amount of gore and blood and jump scares and all of those things. I mean, that's kind of just fun. That's just almost nostalgic for certain movies and things like that. Um, but it's kind of gotten to a point where, like, I mean, horror films are all I watch, or like TV and film. I mean, not just film, but like TV shows. It's like they always have to be. There has to be like a horror aspect. Like Ben, my husband. I have to say it like that in case nobody else knows. That was
My husband Ben.
my husband that Calvin has known for a gajillion years, knew before
Yes.
he knew me, married
Yep.
us, all that fun stuff.
Yep.
So the point is, like, it's gone to the point with him, like, I think that we used to watch like everything together, but now it's like he's like, okay, what horror movie? Like, I mean, he's like sending them to me. He's like vetting them for me. Like, what show that's like super fucking scary is it that we're gonna watch? Because it just has become this weirdly comforting thing for me. And yeah, I love it. I don't know if that like answers the question, but I think that I do think for a lot of like horror fans, I think if you were to really look at the people who are super into horror, you would find more often than not that there are people who maybe are more fearful or more anxious or any number of things. And horror films are just kind of a controlled environment for them to experience that, and it's cool.
And then like it seems like yeah to like express it in a way, but in a fun way that it's that's the beauty of movies is like the credits are going to roll eventually.
Yeah, exactly. They are. And it's like also there's the idea of like overcoming them. Like, so there's a lot of horror films that I watched when I was younger that now that I was horrified. The Exorcist would definitely be one of them when I was younger. And that as an adult, I have come to love and watch all the time. And like overcoming that fear and turning into something that you really appreciate and that you love is kind of, it's an interesting view, I guess. It's just it's like a different take on something that probably at one point terrified you.
Yeah, no, I for sure, and it's fun because Nat and I actually were just talking about that tonight of like which movies stuck with us growing up, and for me the like. I think it was always like the creature features always scared me a little bit more than like the teen slashers and like The Ring. Like she said that The Ring terrified her when she saw it,
Oh
and I
my
saw it
God.
in high school, and I was like, like that. Okay, that was neat, but like Signs, that movie.
Oh my God. I just watched Signs last night. I'm like in tears, like bawling my eye. I mean, that's actually just an insanely beautiful film, like top to bottom.
Oh,
So
I
good.
love
But
it. I mean, it's got Mel Gibson,
so good.
but we'll give it a
I mean,
pass.
yeah, I like fuck Mel Gibson. But
Exactly. Yeah.
everything else is like phenomenal.
Do you have like a favorite or a preference of like a style of horror that you're into?
Yeah, so that is actually probably why The Exorcist is one of my favorites, since it is the originator of my favorite horror films, which are basically all possession movies. I really like ghost kind of ghosty horror movies as well. It's not that, so I have this thing like when it comes to horror movies that I kind of theme them throughout the seasons. I'm nothing if I'm not seasonal. So I so this is probably why spring is my least favorite holiday, because like what the fuck? I mean holiday, a season. But what do you watch? Like what do you watch in spring that's scary? So like in the summer, I've got this whole thing about slasher films and shark movies. These are
Okay.
all
Okay.
I have my shark party every summer, and slasher films are great, especially near the end of summer. That's always kind of a time for me to watch slasher films. I can come up with this like whole list of movies in the summer that like kind of lean into summer, right? Fall time is obviously just like set for like my favorite horror movies of all time.
The spookies.
The very spooky ones, like the best of the best, which is obviously like The Exorcist, the Conjuring movies. I mean, even some of the Annabelles fall in there. I mean, and those are kind of ridiculous, but they fall in there. Halloween's all just super, super good. Then when you get into winter, I have a whole list of like winter horror films. Like, so Krampus, we have a Krampus night every year. Krampus is like, I don't know if you've seen it. I mean,
I have not.
it's phenomenal. I mean, if you love Christmas and you love horror and you love creatures killing people, like you will die. And we just get drunk and we have like Christmassy cocktails and watch Krampus. So it's amazing. But then we do Krampus, we do Gremlins, we do The Visit. Actually, The Shining is always one that we do in the winter. Like there's all these like kind of like misery. Okay, so that's not like a horror movie, but I can kind of move into things that are a little suspenseful if I need to.
Yeah, it's like Dread. Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got all of these, and then you like roll around to spring, and you're like, okay, I don't know.
Yeah.
Midsummer.
Midsummer. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
just about to
there
say.
we
There you
go.
go. There's your spring movie, and yeah, we're gonna get in a fight real
Yeah.
soon about Midsummer, and
Midsummer. Oh, Hereditary. I still need to watch this. this season.
Again, right? You need to watch it again, you mean?
No, I have not watched. Well, okay, I've seen Hereditary a million times, but I have not seen it yet this season. So every like, I watch it, it's this whole sad cyclical thing that I have to do and put everybody in my life through. But so wow, did I forget the original question?
No, I think we got it. I don't even remember the original question, so I think we're doing great.
Great, cool.
Okay, what I've done, I want to do something that I've not actually done with anybody else yet. I've put together a list that's equal parts serious and ridiculous.
Oh my God, okay.
And if you want to, I'm going to run through the list, top to bottom, and you just give it an F to an A rating. Or you could say like NA for like not applicable or whatever, or like pass or haven't seen it or whatever.
I'll probably come up with different terms, but got it.
Yeah, that's fine too. Yeah. We'll play. Let's play a drinking game on how many terms you come up with by the end of this list. Okay, so F to A.
Okay.
Or some word. You ready?
Okay. Yep.
Okay. And this is my list of just kind of lazily going through IMDb because I don't know a ton about horror.
Okay, so I want to know, like, are these horror movies that you personally like, or is this just your list not knowing shit?
Some of these I haven't even seen nor heard of.
Okay, great,
so,
right. Okay, we'll see if I have. Okay.
Okay. All right. Easy one at first. A Nightmare on Elm Street.
C.
Carrie.
Oh, B+.
Jason X.
Oh my God, I think maybe. Well, sometimes those can be fun. I'm gonna give it a D though.
Okay. Poltergeist.
Oh my God, A.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
A-.
Scream.
B+, which people would disagree with, but I'm not that into slashers.
Fuck it, we'll do it live. Friday the 13th.
B+.
Exorcist 2, The Heretic.
Don't fucking know what that is. Out. I don't watch the Exorcist follow-ups, Barth. That's like watching the Hobbits, okay, after seeing the Lord of the Rings. No.
Well, I'm going to just say it then. Exorcist 3.
Fuck off. Again.
Child's Play.
Oh, okay. God, Ben would kill me for saying this because it's like his favorite, but I'm going with like a C+.
The Omen.
Oh, A-.
The Conjuring.
Solid A. A+ is the best rating here, okay, but that's an A for me.
The Conjuring 2.
That's a B+.
Annabelle.
Wait, which one? Okay, which one?
I don't know. The thing just said Annabelle.
First, Annabelle, I'm giving it like a C-.
Annabelle Creation.
Okay, so that is... You're like, what the hell are these movies?
Yeah, I've never seen them.
That's gonna be like I'm gonna go with a B-.
Okay, this is all for horror fans so that they can kind of like in their head be like either agree with you, because that's the thing about like horror fans, they're like they're either like in total agreement or they're like, you're the biggest idiot. The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It.
Okay. This just came out and I had really high expectations for it. I wanted to rewatch it this year to feel a little bit better about it, but I'm gonna give it like a B-. It didn't. I love the whole Conjuring world. Like I have said, like the Conjuring world is my favorite world. You know how people are like, whatever Marvel universe. Oh, Marvel universe.
There you go.
Barf. No, Conjuring universe is my universe. But yeah, that was just a no for me. It didn't do that well.
The Nun.
Oh my God! So I surprisingly really like that. B+.
Annabelle Comes Home.
Nun, I just like side note. The Nun itself scares the living shit out of me. It's so dumb. It's so much CGI. It's so stupid looking, but it fucking haunts my dreams. So that's why. Okay, so what are we on?
The next one is Annabelle Comes Home.
God, I wish I could remember. Wait, if that's like the really good Annabelle, like the newest one, if that's legit, I'm gonna give it an A-.
All right, Get Out.
Oh, that had so much more hype than I'm B-.
Oh, Us.
Not my type. Us, B+.
A Quiet Place.
A-.
Psycho.
Oh, A+.
It Follows.
Ooh, A.
Alien.
A.
The Witch.
Ooh, I really liked that, but I'm going to give it a B+.
Relic.
Oh, I didn't see that. Wait, Relic.
I've seen this one.
Wait, Relic, like that. Okay, is that like that new horror movie, or is that the one with like the creatures?
It's like a creature feature from the 90s.
Oh my God,
B+. Where you eat your brains from out the back of your head.
Yeah, 100% B+. Okay, that's still a B+. I thought it was like, yeah, continue.
Okay, Saw.
Oh my God, D.
Saw 2.
F.
Saw 3.
Them all.
Saw
You're
4. Hold on. Saw 4. What?
F.
Saw 5.
Saw.
Saw 6.
You have to.
Just hold on, bear with me.
F them all, okay.
Saw 3D, the final chapter.
F still.
Jigsaw.
Wait. Okay, I have a question. Is Jigsaw like the newest one that has like what's his face? What?
No, that's Spiral. That's the next one.
Okay. So, all right, which I haven't seen, so why am I getting excited? So, F still.
Okay, so Spiral.
Spiral, have not seen. I'm gonna give it a chance. I guarantee it will come in at under a C.
Okay. Hellraiser.
Oh my God, actually not something I've seen, so don't know. Which I should have seen that.
It Chapter 1.
Those are the new ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like A minus.
It Chapter 2.
B minus.
The Silence of the Lambs.
A.
The Babadook.
B plus.
The Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Ooh, A minus.
VHS.
Fucking F.
The Ring.
Ooh, B plus.
Halloween.
A plus.
Halloween 2.
F.
Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
F.
Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers.
F.
Halloween 5, The Revenge of Michael Myers.
F.
Halloween, The Curse of Michael Myers. Halloween H2O.
Okay, I have to tell you this story. Halloween H2O, right? So this is one of my favorite movies of all time. I don't care how many people like think I'm so stupid for this. Like, I fucking love it. It's not called Halloween H2O, which I've been calling it forever, like Halloween water. Like, ooh, Halloween H2O. It's called Halloween H20, as in like 20 years later, right? And I was recently told this, and it's changed my life, and it actually makes me like the movie less.
Okay.
But we will forever call it Halloween H2O because I will never call it Halloween H20 because whoever named that is incredibly stupid. So, point is, that still gets an A in my book, and always will.
Halloween Resurrection.
Oh, that's the newer one.
No.
Right? Yeah. No, what?
The new one is like The Killing.
No. There's two newer ones, right? They're both done by what's his face? What's his name that did
Zombie.
Yeah. No. Oh, Rob Zombie ones. Fuck the Rob Zombie ones. Actually, Rob Zombie in general, if you name any more of his films, I'd rather set him on fire. I do not like Rob Zombie films.
All right.
He's just like a torture porn dude.
Yeah, it's weird. Suspiria, 1977.
No, I'm going to give that a D.
Suspiria, 2018.
I'm going to give that just go shoot yourself in the face.
Okay.
I mean, didn't we talk about this before? So the newest Suspiria. Okay, we want to be excited because Tom York did all the music and all this shit, and it was like, I mean, you saw it, right, Calvin?
Yeah.
Okay, that end scene. Did you lose part of your life? I mean, that's like not even. No, I'm sorry. I don't know. That was hard for me.
I'll get into Suspiria another time, not today. I liked it, but I didn't like it at the exact same time. But anyway, Species.
F, no.
The Meg.
Oh my God. Okay. Well, so we're going into shark movie land. So I'll give that a C in the world of shark movies.
Okay.
They get like a different rating scale.
Okay. Last one. American Werewolf in London.
Oh, I mean, that's a classic, but I'm still going to give it a B.
Okay. So any other horror? Is it like horror fans, horror files? I don't know. You call it yourself. I'm sorry. I'm not the person for this.
I don't know if I call myself anything, but I'm sure that some people do. So speak to them.
Hyper excessive fans of the horror genre.
Yeah.
Now you know who you're dealing with. Now you know what you're up against. And now if you have any complaints, just direct them towards Isabelle and leave me out of this fight. Because I don't know.
Go for it.
I don't really know anything about horror. Like, horror is a weird thing for me because you kind of have to let go. And if there's a person in this world that's good at letting go, it is not me. And
you are so fun to watch horror movies with, though, because so I guess that's like probably another very sick thing about people who love horror films is, at least for me, maybe I'm probably speaking on behalf of people I shouldn't be speaking on behalf of, but I love to see other people get like scared shitless, which is terrible. I mean, it could be something wrong with my personality. So, like you watching them with you, and you're not a big horror person, and I have all these memories of you like sitting on the couch or whatever, all covered
Drunk
up
as a skunk.
in a little blankie, and you're like watching, and you're like, on a scale of 1 to 10, you're like 2 out of 10 scary, 2 out of 10. Oh, 4 out of 10 scary, four out of 10. 8 out of 10 scary, 8 out of 10 scary. And it brings me so much joy. Like, why does that flood my heart with joy to see somebody start to get really scared? I guess it goes back to that, whole exposure therapy thing of like, maybe I enjoy seeing other people get scared too. Like, oh, we're all sharing in this together. Who knows? It's probably very psychological.
Well, the movie. Now that we're 22 minutes into this, with the movie,
this is the worst. We should never.
It was fun. I had fun. Okay, we're fuck it. We'll do it live.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna talk today about The Exorcist, a cult classic, a fan favorite of the horror genre. Came out in what year was it? Oh my gosh, 1973.
70 something. Yeah.
Yeah, good movie.
Amazing movie, yeah.
Let's go. Do you want to, or do you want me to go over like a refresher film synopsis?
You do it because I'm really bad at like an elevator pitch, not my thing.
Okay.
So you definitely do that.
All right. And help fill in the gaps.
Sure. Yep.
Okay, so The Exorcist, for anyone that hasn't watched it recently.
If you have not watched it, then you suck, but continue on.
You should watch it before hearing us fools talk about it.
Yeah.
The Exorcist is a movie about one of my favorite actors, Ellen Burstyn, who and her daughter, Regan, played by Linda Blair. Ellen Burstyn is like a famous actor in a movie, and I think they're filming in the state of Washington, right? So they had to move there. Was it Georgetown? I think it's Georgetown.
It's Georgetown.
So they're making a movie, and so Ellen Burstyn's character had to go there. They moved into a house just so they could make this movie. She brought her daughter along. There's issues with the father, kind of, right? Yeah, and then
kind of like a distant thing. Yep.
And then there's like some spookies, right? There's some spookies that happen, and there's some spookies in the attic and in the walls, and then the spookies take hold of this little girl. She's got to be like 13, right? 14 in the movie?
Maybe younger. I don't know. She might be a little younger than that in the movie.
And she's this sweet little girl. Like, they show like a great relationship between the mother and daughter. They're like friends. They play games, and there's kind of some hints and clues like
the slow build.
Yeah, like what did it? But eventually we realize that like it's a demon, or even possibly like the devil himself has.
It's a demon.
Okay.
It is not the devil himself, but yeah, it is a demon.
Is possessed, and don't you? I think in like later movies you come to figure out his name is Pazuzu, but that's another story for another time.
It totally is, because there's so many cuts. So I mean, depending on what cut you're watching, you're gonna get a totally different movie at this point.
Okay. And then we'll talk about that in a second. And then,
for sure.
And then, so this little girl, just like little things by little, like the color of her eyes are changing. Her skin is disfiguring.
It starts subtle.
The spookies are happening where first she's like rocking in her bed, but then the bed is like picking up by itself, and then her voice starts changing. She starts speaking Latin, which is my personal favorite out of all the spookies, is the Latin.
Wow, that's your favorite? Wow. That's
out of all of it, I love that.
You
Latin.
all know that, like, you don't read the Latin, you don't speak the Latin. You're fucked if you do that. I mean, every horror movie ever. That's the deal. Never read the Latin.
That's like horror 101. Yeah, if there's Latin in a book, just close that book. And
run for your life.
And so then a priest gets involved. The priest is he's like the priest of like science, and
so he's a psychiatrist. He is a doctor. He's got a PhD, and he's a doctor, and he's definitely questioning his place in the Catholic Church. So And
Father Damien, yeah.
Damian, yeah, like Dr. Karras, Father Karras, whatever. He, that's a big theme throughout, and we can talk about that. But that's always a theme, I think, in the Catholic religion is the questioning. And that's something that they, of course, played into. But yeah, continue on.
And so he gets kind of involved. We kind of realize that, yeah, he's more involved in like the science end of the church. And again, like you said, the psychiatrics and more
Yep.
of like the physical premise of like reality and maybe perhaps what it could mean and the interpretation
And
of the
mental
Catholic Church.
illness.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a great part of the movie, the idea of mental illness. Like I think they were just coming around to some of that stuff at that time. So it's their mentioning of it is it's great for the exposure of mental illness, but it's also really great because it kind of grounds you. Like it shows you that it's almost more realistic to have that aspect in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because they're taking young Regan to the hospitals and they're explaining that it could be something with her brain. It could be systematic of
And
X,
that
Y, and
creates
Z.
a very real feeling, versus it just being all kind of more about this possession or all kind of religious. Like, it kind of brings in people that are not religious and makes them believe.
Yeah, and that's one thing that I like too about the movie is that it's not like religious right off the bat. It's actually the last resort. They literally do everything else before.
For the family, it is. Yep.
And so the first half, that's another thing too, is the divisiveness of the film of how it's built. Like the first half again is like the science of it all, the going to the doctors and the medical equipment and the doubt and the disbelief. And then the second half is then it's like, okay, well now we've involved the church, and what does that mean?
That's kind of an interesting thing. I feel like we're just getting into it now, though I don't know if you want to finish your synopsis first.
Well, yeah. So then there's the police chief, the police investigator. That actor, his name is Lee J. Cobb. I love that guy. He was in 12 Angry Men. He's an awesome actor.
Yeah. Oh my God.
He gets involved because there was a murder at the house. That's a whole thing.
The director.
Yeah.
Yep.
The director gets thrown down this set of stairs that's very steep, and there's many of them. So the police detective's involved. Father Donovan's involved. Now the church is involved with this exorcism of this young girl, but of course he can't perform it because this is like a sacred duty that can only go to like a certain tier. I'm not Catholic, so I don't know all the terminology.
Yeah, for sure. But it's got to go up through the.
And then they brought in Max von Sydow as the priest that's going to perform.
Father, you're right. Father Marin, right? That's it. Yep. Oh, for sure.
I know him as Max von Sydow. I love him. I came up with a joke. I was gonna say he's an actor for his two most famous roles, which is Star Wars Episode 7 and Strange Brew, which I'm joking. He is much more famous actor than those two roles. If you've never seen Strange Brew, that's a 10 out of 10 film. I actually should do an episode on Strange Brew. I'll make somebody watch it. But anyway,
I love this. That's a 10 out of 10. That's hilarious.
I love that movie. But anyway, so finally they get him involved, and they're doing The Exorcist, but it takes time. Some shit gets fucked. She's saying the spookies. She's doing the spookies, and then the possession, and we'll have to get into this, and like what does possession mean? But the possession then goes into Father Donovan. He kind of like puts himself on the... Or Damian. I said, Damian. Sorry, names.
Yeah, no, all good.
And then he jumps out the window. It was foreshadowing. He jumps out the window, and he too tumbles down the stairs, cracks his neck, hits his skull, bleeds out, and then dies. Then effectively ending the possession. The exorcism was complete, or you could even argue it wasn't technically.
Incomplete, almost. Yeah, it was.
But the demon is gone, and Reagan is back, and her and her mother leave the house, and that's the movie. Of course, with a couple more themes, a couple more things that we glossed over, but ask everybody, like again, out of the whole stratosphere of films that you could have picked, why this film? Why The Exorcist? Why was this your choice?
Yeah, so I have a few things to say about that. So, first of all, it's like probably out of maybe it would be in like my top 3 favorite horror films, which I think like maybe some people have categories of like these are my favorite horror films, these are my favorite dramas, these are my favorite films. Like, but for me, like top 3 favorite horror films it's definitely top 3 favorite films, like in general. We're excluding Lord of the Rings because we all know how I feel about that. But so it's just a film that I absolutely love. And There's actually, so this is like a story I wanted to share about the film and kind of like why I think beyond it just being so great and so good and so scary, like why I like it so much. And so for me, I watched it. I think a lot of people probably watched it maybe in our general age group, probably came to watch it maybe in like middle school for the first time. And so for me, I was in the sixth grade, and you already know this, Calvin, but I grew up in a small town that was like obscenely religious, like very, very religious, like literally had like an actual like shrine and just like a lot of crazy stuff. So religion was like a very big thing in our community. And I grew up in a family that wasn't like necessarily religious. Like my dad was um, raised Catholic, but my mom was very like just open. So we were just all kind of raised that way. We weren't baptized, anything like that. So I watched it with friends in the sixth grade and didn't know what I was getting myself into at all. And I was watching it with these two girls, and we watched it in broad daylight, which to this day actually terrifies me more. Okay, so it goes into this whole thing. So we're in my friend's living room, and to play into this like crazy religious town that I lived in, her living room is bright white. It's in the middle of the day, and it is filled with like porcelain figures of like Jesus and his like disciples. Like, I mean, like everywhere. It's not like there's a couple. Like the whole room is decorated in this way. There are like little tubes that is like Jesus turning like water to wine or his blood to wine or whatever the story is. I don't know.
Oh
But like
boy.
literally, and they're like plugged in, so it's like showing that it's turning like stuff to the stuff, just like very visual, right? Like of like, oh Jesus, literally. So we're in there, and I'm like, okay, this is, I've been in this room a million times, but I don't love going in this room in general. Okay, but we're in there. And we're watching it, and I'm kind of like, the whole first half of the film, he's in like, Iraq. It's like some archaeological dig. Like, no, like sixth grader even like conceptualizes that. It's something I enjoy now watching it, but as a kid, I was like, I don't know what this is. I don't care. But the film starts, and we must have got the cut right. So they don't. There's a cut now that they don't necessarily show Reagan doing her crazy, scary crab walk down the stairs. Like, it's okay. So this is iconic, and I think that they have taken it out because it doesn't really align with the rest of the film. Maybe like of some of like the slow build up. Like maybe it was a bit more of like a cheap shot, like kind of a jump scare, and maybe they didn't want that in there. I'm not sure why they took it out, but it was in this one. And, very horrifying for a kid. So she comes like flying down those stairs, backwards, and
It's
blood.
terrifying. Yeah, I've
Oh
seen
my
it. Yeah,
God.
it's creepy as
Blood.
fuck.
Yeah, blood spilling out of her mouth. And it's just like that horrifying, like, whatever. I can't even do whatever the horrifying scream. And, my friends are telling me like, oh, these are real recordings of Exorcist. Like, this is real. And they've set up the movie to be like, Reagan wasn't baptized. Like, her mother is this actress, and this is something we can talk about. Her mother is this actress, and she's like a single mom, and she comes home, and she has a drink after her shift. You know what I mean? It's very like, her mom's this modern woman, but Reagan's not baptized, and so somehow she was exposed to this. She didn't have this like protection, and I'm sitting there between these two girls who are like, one's Catholic, one's Lutheran. They're very, devout, and I'm like, oh shit, like, I'm the person here that's gonna get like, so this scene happens, and I just break down and like start crying, because I'm in the sixth grade and I'm like hysterical, like, oh my God. And right as I start crying, like right that moment, both girls, it's like they look at I'm not friends with them anymore. I mean, so both girls look at each other, and they instantly, like they planned it, each of my arms with their
Oh,
arms on
oh,
either side,
oh.
lock arms, and rewind the scene, and they just play it again and again and again, and I'm like hysterical. And it's just was such like a crazy, scarring, traumatic memory for me. um I mean, first of all, what bitches, but
Yeah, I
second of
was
all,
gonna say,
just
yeah, Becky, we're talking to you here, you fuck. Becky and Stephanie here, Jesus.
like with the hell? Which is funny because I was just talking about how fun it is to see other people get scared from horror films. But I mean, that was just kind of next level. And it just absolutely terrified me. And it sat with me for such a long time. Like, it just really, really, really scared me. And we ended up watching the rest of the movie and, how you get over things with your friends. And I didn't watch it again for the longest time. Like, I didn't want to. I was just,
I think that's understandable. Yeah.
Traumatized. And I think I watched it for the first time again when I was probably like 20. And it was right when me and Ben got together. And I was like, let's watch The Exorcist. And we did. And it was like, one of those cool moments of just getting over something, which again is like one of the things I kind of like about horror films. But it was just kind of like getting over it. And also just like being with a person that you trust and all that sort of thing. But it was also. And this is another thing we can talk about. We all know about the subliminal messaging in The Exorcist, right? The scary like white demon face guy that comes up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so originally that was like this. It's like less than a second. It just is this quick little shot. I think it played in the original maybe like one time.
Yeah, like once or twice. Yeah.
Yeah, once or twice. You couldn't even detect it in theaters, but unlike VHS and all that stuff, you can. So of course, how we were watching it, you could detect it, and I think like depending on the cut you get, you can see that guy up to a few more times.
Yeah, that's one of the differences. This is one little trivia fact that I know is that's one of the differences between the two. At this point, there's effectively two cuts of the film. There's kind of this quote unquote standard cut, and then the cut they were calling the version you've never seen. And like I've seen both of them, and the version you've never seen, like there's the scene where Ellen Burstyn's character is like walking through her kitchen, and the camera,
and you see it.
Yeah, you see it like in the stove and like in the shadow of the stove, and like in the shadows of the walls. And I remember thinking that version is a lot creepier, but
I love that version.
Original version, I think, without it makes it more interesting. So it's like no matter which version you get, you're fine.
I think the thing about it though, and that's what I'm saying is that like I remember watching it as a kid and seeing that little face pop, like it does. And it worked exactly the way it was supposed to, in the way that like me and my friends did not talk about it afterwards. We didn't bring it up when it happened. I very truly believed I just saw it myself. And that I was 100% being possessed. And I think that's probably like maybe some of the reaction they had when they had first showed it and people were freaking out, because I'm like talking to Ben when we finally watched it again when I'm 20 or whatever. And at the end of the movie, I'm like, you saw that, like, that face, right? And he's like, yes. He's like, we all, just kind of like, are you serious? And it like helped me so much. But like, I really internalized that. Like, I was like, it totally worked on me. And it's like, I cannot be the only person that worked on. Like, it was so, I know it was meant as like subliminal messaging. And I know like in the original, the idea, like when you saw it in theaters, I don't think that you were actually technically really even supposed to see it. It was supposed to be so fast. You didn't know if you saw it or not. And I know that seeing it on VHS or DVD is different. But that aspect of the movie is actually still one of the things that like terrifies me the most when I watch it. Like every time, like I can't get, like, again, I've seen this so many times and I'll be sitting there with Ben and that little face will pop up and I'll be like, Jesus fucking Christ, like screaming. And he's like, oh my God, seriously? Like,
that's funny.
Yourself. Like, it just scares the shit out of me. It really does.
Yeah, and it's the idea of that this demon, this essence is in the house. It's in the walls. It's watching you. It's there, and
it brings it to you personally.
Yeah, and the film does a pretty good job with kind of these like voyeuristic themes that we are a guest in the house. We're not part of the house. We're just here watching all this go down. So when you add those elements to it, it definitely stands out, and it just builds this like eerie sense.
Well, and I think that's one of the great things about like any horror film that I think like that I end up really loving is one that like brings you in. It's one that makes you think this could happen to me. Ones that I can separate myself from, that I can say, well, this is like a very like specific situation that has nothing to do with me. I can really walk away and not really feel anything about it. I don't get that feeling of terror. I think The Exorcist does a good job of making you believe like maybe it could be you. Maybe this could happen to you, and really sinking into those feelings about yourself, maybe even about your own faith, your own anything that you have that's lingering there, you're going to bring it to the table when you watch the movie. And I know so many people walk away either feeling like that movie was absolutely terrifying or feeling like, oh, that movie was kind of uplifting. And, that's what you bring to the table. Like it has nothing to do with the film itself.
Yeah, and it's like, and so you were talking about like again, like why was Reagan picked? Yeah, there's the ideas of like, yeah, they're not religious, they're not baptized, the mom is single, and
Mm-hmm.
like Reagan even says something, I think it's like the director. She's like, oh, you like him, and she's like, well, not like that, but because they're so loose in their conversation about it, it could imply that Reagan understands that her mother has a sexuality of her own, and
Mm-hmm.
and Reagan is developing into her own and understanding it. She's got this cool liberal mom that has parties, and so is it because her mom is, as a 70s term would probably say it, like quote unquote loose, like in
Yeah.
terms
Yep.
of like a mom that parties and drinks and has sexual encounters with men and as an actor, that why the demon came. Then there's even like she played with the Ouija board, and that's why the demon's here. And
Yeah.
it's never answered, and that is really cool because it does then imply that it could happen. It could happen to you. It could happen to me. It could happen to anybody that we know. It could happen to our children and our family members and the
Yes.
people that we care about. And
You know what she did? Your canting daughter?
So I think that portion of it is kind of the which is maybe why so many possession films why they're still relevant, is that it's that theme of good and evil, and you kind of try to sway it one way or the other. Like, so we have this, like, maybe some, see, I'm hearing a scary noise. I'm getting freaked out just talking about this. Anyway, um, so some people might have like very specific ideas of what good and evil is, but like what's great about most possession films is they try to skew it in one way or another. Like they try to make it more accessible to everybody, that you may think you're good, but maybe you have this part of you that is still susceptible. And I think that about Chris, the mom, like her, that the fact that she's a single mother, she's an actress, she's agnostic, it's kind of an atypical family. Um, she pays for somebody else to be with her daughter all day. Like there's this kind of, it's a non-traditional family.
well, and it's even funny too, because like with that same line, really quick too, is like she's a successful woman too.
Yeah,
That's even
she's
more
a
like,
modern woman.
mm-hmm.
And it kind of like, in that way, you're kind of like watching it and you're like, what the hell? Like this is, because her daughter is subsequently preyed upon by the devil. Like, why? I mean, Reagan is supposed to be seen as completely innocent. And then what is she doing? Paying for the sins of her mother, her upbringing. Like, she's unbaptized, but that's not by her choice. So it's this kind of commentary maybe on the modern woman, or like a little knock at it, like
Oh, 1,000,000%. And it's
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 moving away from that traditional family that feels so safe, especially at that time.
and it's like, a lot of people have talked about this in greater detail. So I'm only skimming the surface here, but there's other like
Yeah.
podcasts and YouTube videos and other things out there that have talked about this. But again, it's like the believing of the women is one element, but this is also in the 70s. This is coming off of a spur of women being heavily medicated by the choice of their husbands. I mean, you got to
Yeah.
remember
Hmm.
in the 70s, there was crazy weird fucking laws in certain areas of this country where like if your husband couldn't pick you up, they wouldn't let you leave the hospital. I mean, like,
Yeah.
this
Oh, for
is
sure.
very real.
A
So
lot of oppression.
exactly. So the fact that like so much of the medical science has been integrated in this film, and then these experts can't give her answers and also aren't even listening to her and believing her, very
Yeah.
much taps into that tone of like, well, she's just a woman. What does she know? And that's even then like another layer that is a little bit spookier than the spooky itself, which is the demon. So
Yeah, well, and that comes into play, I feel like, multiple times, because if you think about it, even like Reagan, so the Exorcist is based off of a book. The book is based off of a real exorcism, a real thing that happened, and in it is actually a boy. It's like I'm not sure how old he is or whatever, but it's like maybe like a 14-year-old boy or something like that. And I think it's so interesting that for the film, it's a younger girl. Like what is our society's idea of innocence? Why isn't a 14-year-old boy seen as innocent? Why wasn't that the casting call there? But it's a young girl. Like it's like that we are this the idea that we create of innocence, the idea that we create a single mother and her young girl like this, it's so much more frail. And although it doesn't have to be, but it is. It's that idea that it's more frail, and it's kind of like it's really kind of a commentary on that. And she's supposed to be this modern woman that provides for herself and does all of this, and they kind of go against that a bit.
And it's very much a movie that it definitely has high rewatching value is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
And every time you watch it, you can kind of pick up on something new, and you can kind of think about something new and kind of see things at a different angle. And even noticing things too, like one thing I never really thought of or picked up on in the same line of what we're talking about now is, I'm terrible at names, I'm sorry, but the director is over, and he's starting to make an ass of himself. Burke, yep. Thank you. And Chris at one point is kind of basically telling him you need to stop, you need to go home, and he's putting up a fight, and it's just this the men can be asinine and absurd, but when a woman has a medical condition, it's well, we don't believe you. And there's so many layers to that. And that is where then I think that there's, almost all stories have it in some capacity. The characters are fated into something. And so it's an interesting dynamic then too with Damian's character, because his mother, who he cares about deeply, is dealing with A, mental issues, and B, also being a woman living alone. Yep. And so I feel due to that fate, if you could argue in a sense where, if the devil and these demons are capable of, orchestrating these events in the film, maybe there's something heavenly above that's orchestrating Damian to have the ability to care to effectively end this evil, and you can kind of think of it in that terms as well, where for how much evil there is in this film, there is still some good at the end, which is cool. So
they try to bring that in with his character. I think his character is really meant to be this vision. You're supposed to see him struggle and then come to this and then defeat it even by the ultimate sacrifice. I feel like that is a very, very Catholic thing. It's a very religious thing to be this person has questioned their faith, and now they're willing to give up everything for the life of an innocent and their faith. So I guess you could look at the end and think that it is, in that way, it's uplifting, or maybe not. I mean, it kind of depends on how you approach it. Because he's obviously very much so questioning his faith, and then he gets put in a scenario where he gives up his life for an innocent young girl. And it's again that idea of innocence, of that anybody would give for her, that because she is possessed. And another one of the things I wanted to say about kind of that first half of the film is I'm just only because I know this because we recently went through this. So the medical procedure part, honestly, I think is one of the more terrifying parts of the film. And I think it's it's obviously meant to build up and cause this discomfort when you're seeing her go in and she has to have these very realistic procedures done. I think it's an MRI and an X-ray, something, the thing with the crazy blood shooting out of the neck. I still scream every time I see that. It's very, very realistic, and I think it really grounds you. It really brings you to reality of would I be doing this with I would be doing this for my own child. This is a good mother exhausting all of her options. And personally, I've seen an MRI. My son has had an MRI done on him before, and it is uncomfortable. I mean, for a child, they're hearing these crazy noises going off, and they are freaking out, alone, and you're just watching, and it elicits this fear that is so. I mean, I remember when we had our son in to have it done, and Ben was I will never watch The Exorcist again because it was so true to that. And I think that what's cool about them having that in there is it's really introducing, because this is before she really gets into her possession, but it's introducing kind of this bit of like physicality, like specifically in the her body is possessed, like, right? So it's not her soul. Her soul isn't. Her soul was taken to be over. So it's the body. So it's this. It's kind of introducing this physicality that is yet to come, and it's very scary in that way. Just to that aspect of it, that side of it. They go through the medical side of it, where you would be so horrified if you were a parent. You'd be so horrified if you were her as a child, and then they move into the physicality of her actually being possessed. And it's just, I feel like it's kind of like an omen at the beginning. It's just very,
It flows really well. Yeah.
it does, yeah. And I think maybe watching it when I was younger, it probably seemed disconjointed. Is that a word? It didn't, everything with like the beginning, the Iraq, the whatever, and then like into the medical stuff. And then you're just basically waiting for like the pea soup to come out, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
the part that you're waiting for, which is all, to this day, absolutely horrifying. But it's not really the stuff that as an adult builds up for me. Now this stuff as an adult it's that stuff that really gets me.
Yeah, we care about things differently as we get older. Like, you're a mother now, so you can relate to, Chris's character having to watch her daughter go through this, whereas
Yeah.
a 21-year-old can't, or
Right.
whatever, you know what I mean? And it's kind of funny. Yeah, Nat and I were rewatching the movie in preparation for this, and yeah, during all those medical exams, I kind of just jokingly said to Nat, like, pretending to be the demon, and I was like, yes, that is my grand scheme, is to rack up your insurance bill. Like, that's the real demon's, ultimate goal here. And
It's truly terrifying.
exactly, millions of dollars in medical bills, yes. And then, like, he's got like investment stocks and like, the medical and like pill industry. Yeah, it's all a pyramid scheme. It's all, that's where it's all going to. But see, for me, it's kind of funny. Like, you were talking then too about the like the getting there and watching it as a child versus watching it now, and it's kind of funny because, like, see, I like horror movies. I do. I don't know a lot about them, and there's probably more horror movies that I have not watched than I have, but there are certain ones that I really like. And the problem, and this is me personally, this is not the fault of the film. This is me.
Mm-hmm.
Is there's always this voice in my head that is saying, like, why these people? And what I mean by that is, like, I understand part of the horror, well, again, we were talking about, is that it could happen to anybody. But think about it in the terms of the logistics of the demon. This is something that, like, when I watch these kinds of films, and I'm asking out of a form of, like, pure sincerity, because my brain is just like, if you have the ability to possess people, why don't you just possess the president of the United States and just have him press the nuclear launch button and fucking kill an entire country? See, and it's like, or I could go into a little girl who's laying in her bed. And I understand the horror is that it is a sweet little innocent girl, but you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, but so I mean, just to argue that point, so that would never be okay from the standpoint, I suppose, of a demon. So you don't want to. I don't know that you would want to bring the world to nuclear fallout. Like, you are, the idea of possession is like opportunity. I think. I don't think that you get to just do it to anybody. It is the opportunity. It's the openness. It's like it's like a door is opened, and so I think that's always what's really frightening about it. And so with Reagan, they really try to set that up, where whether it be that she's not baptized, and that her mom and her mom's lifestyle, but then that she was down in the basement playing with a Ouija board, which is why to this day I haven't played with a Ouija board. As much as I am like a very spooky person, I'm like, no thanks. I don't actually want to be possessed. But so the deal is like you are supposed to somehow accidentally open yourself to it, and that it can happen to anybody who accidentally kind of opens that door that doesn't have these like protections. And I think that I get what you're saying though about the like, but why these people, why this story? And of course the story is there because it is the innocent young girl, and that's what draws our hearts in, and everything else. But that's also supposed to be the terror in it is that it's not, if it was something like a demon would only possess somebody that was of the utmost importance, well, then you as a viewer, I mean, you're just not going to be that scared. It's supposed to, I feel like it's supposed to, if you're doing a good job, you're supposed to bring a little terror into the viewer. The viewer is supposed to somehow think like, this could happen to me or somebody I know or somebody I love, and that is why I'm so scared.
That is true. No, and I get what you're saying.
I think that's your defense mechanism when you're spooked.
Probably. It's just like understand the logistics from a business circumstance, because it's just every time I watch this movie, I'm like, what's the demon's end game here? Like, like I'm gonna possess this girl and we're gonna open up a bowling alley and we're gonna.
They just want pure terror. That's what they want. That's it. They just want to take our souls. Innocent ones especially are the tastiest. Like, that's the deal.
But again, it's like I watched this in comparison to like, It Chapter 2, and yeah, this movie is like a goddamn golden masterpiece, and
Do it again.
In time.
No, now.
In time. Mirabile dictu, don't you agree?
You speak Latin.
Ego te absolvo.
Quod nomen mihi est?
Bonjour.
Quod nomen mihi est?
La plume de ma tante.
How long are you planning to stay in Reagan?
Until she rots and lies stinking in the earth.
And this movie does do one of my biggest things in horror films, just personally, is like I cannot tolerate nor stand the gore porn categories.
Oh my God. I call it torture porn, and I despise it as well.
Yeah,
100%.
That and
it's so cheap.
It's cheap, and it's just like, who is this for? That's what I always think of.
Who is this for? Who's watching this? Who wants this? And who's making it? Yeah, I'm not into that aspect of horror in any way whatsoever.
But this film does a great job at building dread, and that's my favorite thing in horror, is just this like.
Dread is the perfect word. That is that's what gets you.
And it just builds, and just little by little by little, and you put it on top of, again, a film that for its time, I mean, this film is very risky. They've got,
oh my gosh,
priests that are talking about, a not total commitment to the faith. You've got moms partying and doing things with their daughter, and
you've got a crucifix masturbation scene. I mean, like, oh my God, it's next level.
The statue that gets defecated with,
oh my God,
the graffiti and what have you, the art that is applied on top of the statue, and
oh my God, which still all of it still makes me literally yelp. It scares me that much every time I see it.
Well, and I think that like one thing that I kind of wanted to talk about and think I think there's a lot of people that don't understand the scrutiny that the film industry went through, particularly in like the 50s, kind of in the heyday era of Hollywood, is that a lot of films in the 50s and 60s, there was a lot of like censorship, and a ton of people that weren't making the films determined what could be in your own personal film that you created yourself. And that shit is bananas. And because it was really heavy in the 50s and 60s. And then it was the 70s when a lot of people said, fine, we're not going to your studio then to make movies. We're going to finance it in other ways and still release the films. And then they started making a ton of money because they were really good. The heyday of filmmaking was in the 70s. That's when all the best movies ever came out, was in the 70s.
For sure. I actually really agree with that.
And so then this was a film that really helped push and pioneer that, because there are some things that even in like 2021, I'm like, oh damn, like they're doing this, and and so there's like a two-part coin. Is like, the first part is that I'm glad that they did it, because again, people had to do that, especially in the 70s, to push through and say, because like a lot of that censorship too was for like personal financial gain. If like I'm on the committee that censors these films, but I have, commitments and ties and stock value in a different film industry, well, I'm going to ruin your film so it doesn't compete against my film. So it wasn't for the heart of the good Christian community of the United States of America. It was for financial reasons often.
Yep.
And it was bullshit. But so then the other side of the coin, though, is with this film, and I'd be interested to see what you think, though, is I do wonder, and I don't know the answer, I'll be honest, is like, what percentage would you say is like, see, I feel like some of this film, though, is doing it just for the shock value. It's not over the top, but there are some things where I always kind of think with like a certain base that I'm like, are they just doing some of these things for the sake of doing them? But as like a horror fan, maybe there's something that I'm not looking at that maybe you have a different light on, but you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't...
Yeah, I mean, so you're talking about the aspects of the movie that are obviously over the top,
Yeah.
like, right, like the spinning head, the pea soup, the
like
you know,
masturbation with the crucifix and like...
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would actually argue that that part was not doing it for shock value. I think that part was really breaking through some crazy boundaries. I actually can't even imagine seeing that in a film today without it just being kind of like a dumb film, like definitely not a good one. So that was kind of its own thing, but some of the other stuff, like yeah, like obviously like the spinning head, the barfy pea soup thing. So yeah, I think that with any great horror film, though, you are going to have those moments because that's what you want. I mean, like, I still, no matter how great a film is and no matter how much build up there is and the intensity is all in the music, I mean, which we could go into a whole different thing of that with the music and the audio of The Exorcist, but like, you know, the build up there and the terror there and this kind of like slow build that you see with the family and what's happening to them and this whatever. All beautiful, all wonderful aspects of filmmaking, great. But come on, at the end of the day, it's a horror film. We better see something scary. You know what I mean? I would walk away from this and be pissed if I did, you know, if there was a little rumbling of the bed and a couple swear words. I mean, no, there needs to be the true terror. So, I mean, I think that stuff, I mean, yeah, maybe it's shock value, but that's the point. I mean, I think they pulled her, I truthfully believe that they pulled the version of her like flying down the stairs, which is just next level terrifying because they thought it was just too obvious, too in your face.
Yeah. And I know there's things too that they have like pulled back on in terms of what Reagan actually did and said. Like there's some things that they've even like cut down to de-intensify it, which is kind of funny. But
it is to kind of, I get it. And I get the editing behind that. I get the kind of wanting to make it a little bit more subtle. But at the end of the day, it's a horror film. You need those aspects. You do. I mean, it's not supposed to be this, you know, kind of suspenseful possession film. It's a horror movie.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need the pea soup.
You need the pea soup, and
you do.
You need a little girl shouting "fuck me." There you go.
I straight up wanted to be her for Halloween so badly this year. I mean, so inappropriate for me as a mom, but I really wanted to be her. I've wanted to do it for years. Like Ben is like, could you please just buy some tiny little costume? No, the answer is no. I want to be her, and I want him to be one of the priests. He can choose whichever one he wants to be. But wouldn't that be so great? Yeah, wouldn't that be so great walking around and I'd just be like splurting out this like little like pea soup thing from like a bag or something and like screaming obscenities with this like scary face. Oh my God, it's a dream for me.
Your kids would just be like, well, mom's back at it again, so...
Yeah, I would definitely, it would have to be like an adult Halloween, like my kids are being babysat, okay?
And just get like absolutely smashed before you do it. Just get drunk as all hell, like...
Because I do need to barf all over everybody, right? So, I mean, and I need to start screaming obscenities, and those are things that happen. So, yeah, I love it.
All right, let's see what... Keep away! The sow is mine!
Fuck me!
Fuck me!
Fuck me! Stay away from me!
What does the opening scene and the statue where he's in Iraq, what does the statue in the opening scene, what does that mean to you?
Oh, see, that's another great question because, I mean, I think that maybe some people gloss over the beginning half. I know, like, when I watch it with people, they're like, oh, let's get through this part. So that part actually, again, I mean, and I'm a person, like, as much as I love horror films, I also get very scared very easily. It's like I have not developed a thicker skin, let me tell you that. But so it terrifies me. That beginning part actually really sets the tone for me. I'm so happy it's there. I just said to Ben the other day, I said, why don't more movies do this? This was definitely something that was more done during that time, like this like very elaborate intro that basically doesn't align with the rest of the film in any way whatsoever. And I love it. I absolutely love it because it has always terrified me because it has this historical significance. You know what I mean? So it's beckoning back to this time and this thing that is beyond you. So even if you are religious or not, like I'm not particularly religious, but the historical significance, he's at this like dig site, he finds this, and then when he looks and he sees that like statue and the dogs are like fighting or howling or whatever, just horrifying to me. It's just like the shot itself, the fear that you see in him, or just like the knowing that you see in him, is just it's this idea of like what he has faced, what he's going to face, what he, it gives you a very, a sense of unease. And again, it's this thing that to me it's great because it's really pushing kind of this this is real. Like this is something rooted in some sort of historical, religious, whatever. And it's really, setting the stage versus it just being like some, kind of like some like ghostly demon type thing, some poltergeist in your home that you're like, well, I don't believe in ghosts. This is so much more rooted in what feels very, very real, what feels very significant, very historical. So I actually love that. I love that whole intro scene. I think it really sets the tone for the movie. Although it feels very different from the rest of the film.
Yeah, it definitely stands out, and there are people that, yeah, like I'm sure, especially maybe on the first view when it gets done and it's like, okay, and
What the hell is that? Like as a kid, I remember being like, "Oh, what did I just see? That was 30 minutes of a waste of my life."
Well, and I've always felt that, like, yeah, like you were saying, like there's a history behind Christianity, and I think some people sometimes like forget that, and the fact that they set it in the Middle East, I think is really interesting because I don't know what the term is here, and I'm not trying to offend anybody. I promise I'm not, but like.
Yeah, no offense, Christian people.
Yeah, like there's been a little bit of like, and other people have talked about this, like a little bit of like a whitewashing to like the Bible and the history of a lot of this, and like I still think it's funny like seeing images of like Jesus and he's pasty white in the painting, and I'm like,
he's like a white dude with like long hair. I mean, he looks like any musician you'd see down at the coffee shop. You know what I mean? Like, right.
He looks like he's hanging out with your brother on a weekly basis, and
smoking a bunch of weed.
Exactly,
yeah, no.
and and I feel like that this film is kind of with that opening scene trying to say like, yeah, we're going into like the old terrors.
The origin. Yeah. Okay, the Old Testament, which scares the shit out of everyone, right? I mean, that's a scary one.
Yeah, we're going into the parts of the Bible that like you're not gonna like, that you're not gonna.
They're arcane. They're scary.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, we're not gonna be talking about on like Sunday school, in 2021. We're gonna be talking about things.
Right. Yeah. This isn't like a whale that swallowed you whole and spit you back out, or I mean, I'm guessing at these stories. I think I've heard them before, but like, yeah, this isn't like the like Noah's Ark type situation. This is the like. Eat your soul.
This isn't about Peter the leprechaun and his gold pot. No,
okay, that's definitely not.
That was chapter 3 in Leprechaunicus of the Bible. That was my favorite chapter.
I can't believe you didn't bring up the Leprechaun movies for me to rate those. I mean, because I could have rated them.
Oh my god, I forgot they even existed until right now. I haven't thought about the Leprechaun movie in probably.
I wish I would have chose that. 20... That would have been something to talk about.
Oh my god, I'd have been like, I'm busy that weekend, Isabelle. Sorry. But yeah, no, and I think that it's what I'm trying to say. Like earlier, I said, like, again, holding this up to like It Chapter 2 is that like, I'm sorry, but I hated It Chapter 2. I thought it was a disaster of a film. I did not like any of it, and it was just it's just loud, spooky noises, but nothing's happening.
Yeah.
And it's just that it's a systematic, quick shock it's a jolt to your system. And you get an adrenaline rush, but that's not scary. That's not
It doesn't sit with you in any way.
Exactly. You don't go to bed thinking, could this happen, to
me,
exactly, to the people that I love. And and that's where this film does a great job. And I think that there are there are people, because I've met maybe like 50-50 people, 50% people that, you know, obviously love this film, and then 50% of people that are like, dude, it's just boring. She just pukes green soup and that's it. And it's like, well, yeah, you gotta love something, I guess, to understand the film a little bit more, and to understand that they take their time. And I think that they did set up like a good direction, obviously, that would inspire a lot of other horror films in the future, where, again, like taking your time
100%.
and not giving the answers, and it doesn't just have to be a man in a mask that has a Christian name slowly hunting you down, you know, like it's okay to branch out and make these things into something that maybe the audience doesn't understand, but that's okay. And
the idea that it doesn't come after you, it's within you. That is like a very, very scary theme. And I think that the deal with possession movies in general, I mean, we all know that from The Exorcist, every possession movie from that point has taken from The Exorcist. How can you not? Like it is the pool, the well, whatever that you draw from when it comes to that a possession film, which, you know, to me I think that they are the most horrifying horror films. I mean, it's different for everybody. Everybody has their own kind of spot, like their thing that kind of scares them or brings them terror. For me, it's definitely that. It's just that idea that something could move into you or a person that you love and you would have very little control over it, you know, that sort of thing. And I think the reason that possession films hold up, like the reason they are continuing to be created, continuing to be popular, is that idea, like I said before, of good and evil. Like that's never going to go away. And that idea of it, whether you were religious or not. And, you know, I think when you think about different times, like in our society and our culture, like times of great divisiveness, which I mean would have also been when The Exorcist was created, but most definitely stands now, is I think that people really lean into that in these times of divisiveness, because that is what they literally are feeling. So sometimes you are comforted by experiencing that in film, what you're experiencing in your everyday life, whether you feel it you close to home or not, like you kind of know that it's happening in our society, it's happening in our life. They're very divisive times, and that idea of good and evil always comes into play. That's a way that even if you aren't religious, you still see that good and evil. I mean, most people can understand those themes, and I think a lot of people are like, well, I'm not afraid of The Exorcist because I'm not religious, or they say I'm not afraid of The Exorcist because I am religious. Well, you don't have to have either of those. Like the fear is there because it's that battle between good and evil.
And it's on that same principle too, same idea. It's like, I think the film does a good job at saying, you know, good and evil are great in concept and theory, but what is the ultimate separator at the end of the day is your actions. You know, I can sit here and say you're the best and most good person in the world, and I could sit here and say I'm the most good and best good person in the world, yada yada yada. But if my actions don't speak it, then it's just hot air, and it means literally nothing. And you know, it kind of correlates then into the ideas of even then like religion in itself, which is always this idea of like, here's an analogy, here's a story of somebody placed in a circumstance, but it's your job to interpret what that means and then go in the world and apply it for the reasons of good. And it's funny because I think that overall people typically aren't super analytical of the arts around them, and it's a shame. And so I think that this film does a good job at kind of captivating a general audience. They very much branched it into the idea of like your average, quote unquote average, you know, approachable horror film, but then left its audience with like, again, a deeper meaning, something that you can walk away with and say, you know, Father Damian didn't have to give his life for this little girl, but by him doing it, what happens? You know, like that's the result, and that's the answer, is that he was able to analyze the situation and act on it. And I think that's a really good message in a horror film, it's not just doom and gloom. It's that under any horrible circumstance in this world, you are capable of helping others and maybe act on that to your best capabilities. And yeah, damn, it's a good movie.
So good.
I like it. I think you like it, and
Yeah.
and I'm glad that you have gotten the ability to come over it from Becky and Stephanie in the 6th grade. I don't know if that's their names. I'm just making this up because I think
It's close enough. I won't reveal them. I won't. I know, I mean, they will not listen, but I won't reveal their names just because,
I don't want to get sued. And
yeah, they're not gonna ever listen to this, but still,
that's funny.
Prince of heaven, the death of hell! Fuck him! Be gone! Fuck him, Garrus! From this creature of God! Be gone! In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit, by this sign of the Holy Cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, who lives and reigns with the Father and the Holy Spirit. Damian!
Amen.
So the only other thing I really wanted to share was this very spooky story. And so this is the power of The Exorcist. So I was today, before we talked, I was like, okay, I got to get my brain together because my brain is basically mush from the kids all day. Like it's like most of the time I cannot formulate an actual thought. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna sit down and just think of a couple themes in The Exorcist that I like, that I want to make sure that I talk about with Calvin tonight, and so I sit down and I start, typing this up on the computer, like The Exorcist, blah, blah, point ABC, whatever. Here's this. As I'm doing it, right? So the screen, so the words, right? They just go away. They just disappear. I'm like not even kidding. Like it scared the living shit out of me. Like they disappear as I'm typing them. And I look and I'm like, oh my God, this is so scary. And then part of them comes back in like black, like the, whatever. And then it goes away again. And my little, what is it? The cursor just hops around the like screen a bunch. And then I'm like, okay, so my computer is being possessed. Like something is about to jump out into my soul. Like I am so horrified right now. I compose myself, highlight it all, bring it back to its original, whatever, see it there, all good. But it just terrified me. It totally did, because I think it's like before that I was kind of thinking about The Exorcist in general and thinking about how, my association with it, like always even watching it, even to this day, even though I watch it every year, every time I watch it, I literally in my body believe I'm going to be possessed just by watching this movie. Like which, so many people believe that. So, I mean, if you're actually religious, like a lot of people believe that would like open you to it, right? Which is probably why there are people like barfing in the movie theaters when they originally saw this. But so this happened and I was like just sitting there and I shut down my whole computer because I was just like, no, demon, you're going to die with my computer right now. I'm so horrified that this even happened. And it could possibly be this regular thing. But, they talked about that. I mean, I don't actually know the logistics of it on the set, though I've heard about it a lot, like all the spooky shit that happened on the set, like people dying, like it being on, and you have to, I'm sure, absolutely, that my dumb little, computer poltergeist was just coincidental. But that is the power of that kind of film, that it literally, I mean, it's just a film and it will make you kind of believe these other things, that it would just have the power to even like scare me that much. I've seen it so many times. I'm almost 32. I've got a family and kid. Like, why am I so like scared of this? But
it's so scary. It will make you say, "You're gonna die with my computer, demon."
like I didn't just like throw my Mac out the window. Like
if they ever remake this movie, yeah, that'll be the premise of the 2021 remake.
They're remaking it, right?
I didn't.
And I'm actually super okay. So, this would be interesting to you. What's his face? God, I was trying to think of his name before with the Halloween follow-ups. He did the other Alien, Danny McBride. He is doing it. They're doing like a 3-part remake that's gonna go like air first on like Peacock. I mean, just please kill me now.
Boy.
Like serious. And it's Danny McBride. Like, this guy is getting his hands on some super cool shit. Alien, and then Halloween, and now The Exorcist. It's like he's personally trying to assault me, and he's doing a bad job most of the time.
Son of a bitch! Take me! Come into me! God damn you! Take me! Take me!
We have been chatting for a hot minute. Well, as my friend Janine would say, I could crush your head like a nut, but I won't because I need you. Okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do. If anyone understands that quote, go on my Instagram and tell me what movie that's from, and you'll make my day, and you'll be my number one person in the whole wide world. Well, anyway, Isabelle, thanks for being here today.
Of course.
Thanks for coming to the studio. It has been amazing to talk to you. And we will return next week, where we are going to talk about The Shining, another great classic horror film. A film that's not scary at all, but is
scary at all.
But it's very fun to think about, and one of my personal favorites. So we will see you all next week. Thanks. Bye. I also think it's funny that this episode is going to get released exactly right after Halloween, because timing and scheduling didn't work out.
Oh, no.
It's kind of it's fine. It's funny. I think it's hilarious. So
it seems about right. It does.
I know how to make my podcast, seasonal and to the specific moment of time.